All right, folks, I've got a story for you, and quite a few people have asked for this story. This has to do with my dog Sammy, and the Sasquatch. But before I get going on that, they did work this out. Sammy was very stressed after the incident, and this will probably answer quite a few questions of why Sammy is the way he is, and how he reacts and responds to them. He knows his place, and this would be why. He didn't know better before this took place. He had a lesson to learn. I had a lesson to learn, and like I say, we worked it out. Sammy showed up in about 2017. He was a runaway. He ran away from some neighbors that lived south of me, quite a few miles, and I'm not even sure why these people would even get any dogs, because they worked away from home and they'd be gone for like weeks at a time, and self-feeders and stuff like that, and expect these dogs to stay. He had quite a few bruises and bumps on him when he showed up here, and when he did show up here, he was skin and bones. And he come crawling out of the field that's next to the Bigfoot mint patch towards me. I heard this whining, and he come really low and almost crawling towards me out of the grass. He was very sheepish, and he was very scared and timid, and he come running to me, and he basically jumped in my arms, and that was it. Me and Sam, right? At the time, I did have Tosh, and he was my border collie. I had him for quite a few years. He was another rescue pup, and there's a whole nother story with this one. We were behind a vehicle, and these people were throwing dogs out the window as they were driving, and Tosh was one of these. Pretty much all the animals we have here are either rescue pups. Even with the boars, we actually started purchasing the goats from somebody who we were basically rescuing the goats as well, because where they were coming from, they were malnourished, and the guy worked in the oil industry, and he wasn't there to take, and he was kind of happy for us to take him off his hands. So pretty much everything here is a rescue pet. Okay, so this would have been, Sammy showed up, and in 2019, we knew the Bigfoot were here. Of course, we knew the Sasquatch were here, and I hadn't really connected with them yet with the gifting bowl and the gifting. We would hear them and see them. There was a few times, quite a few times I would just go, it was before I owned any cameras or camcorders or anything, but I would go walk and go sit out in the trees, and they would be there, and it was all good, right? It was good. But Sammy, when he showed up here, I think he had the instinct to protect the property. And when the Sasquatch would come, when the Bigfoot would come onto the property, he would get very aggressive. And I would try to calm him down, like, Sammy, you got to stop. And he wouldn't quit. He would not quit. And the Bigfoot weren't here harming anything. It was just a natural thing. It was something they always did, and we know they're here. We would hear them, smell them, see them once in a while, see glimpses of them in the north pasture, just north of my mother's. This is our everyday, day-to-day life, and he was new to the situation. I believe he thought it was his duty to protect the property and the people here, and he would get very aggressive and almost violent with them. And one night, and this was very, very scary, very intense situation, and I should mention this before we get into the story. My border collie, we had to euthanize. He was quite old, and he ended up with a tumor in the back of his skull, and he was starting to have seizures. That was in between Sammy showing up and Sammy and the Bigfoot incident. So this is 2 o'clock in the morning, and Sammy's going nuts out there, and I had heard the Bigfoot earlier, maybe a half an hour earlier. And like I said, this is before I was gifting, and I set up the gifting bowl, and I went out and I heard this horrible yelp, this horrible sound. And I could hear the running, right? Boom, boom, boom. I knew it was a Bigfoot. I knew it was Sasquatch coming towards my dog. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. And sure enough, I heard the yelp, and his bark became very panicky. Very, very panicky. And I ran out there and I yelled. I had yelled at them, "Do not harm him." After I hollered, Sammy's bark disappeared so fast. The speed at which this Bigfoot was running, and I know maybe some of you are asking, how do you know it was Bigfoot? I could smell them, I could hear them, I could hear the running, right? The really heavy footfalls. And Sammy, his bark is disappearing very, very, very quick to the south of our property, and like there was no way Sammy could move that fast, right? I know that. Now I jumped in my truck. I literally jumped in my truck. I got about a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile down the road, stopped my truck, shut it off, and I stood and listened. And they had already moved to the south and then east of the farm here, probably three miles. And I just stood there at a loss. I stood there lost for a second, like, okay, what am I gonna do? How do I deal with this, right? I whistled and whistled and called and called and called, and I sat there for a bit. I pulled the tailgate down from my truck, and I sat on the tailgate and just sat there and listened. I heard nothing, and I thought, okay, they got him, right? That was my last thought. So I sat for probably in there, had maybe another 15 minutes, and I thought, okay, well, I'll go home. And I pulled into the drive, turned my truck off, and it was very foggy, and it was kind of moonlight. And of course, in the summertime up here in Alberta, we get, like, it doesn't get completely dark. To the north, you could still see a bit of daylight, right? It doesn't ever get completely dark up here. And I thought, well, I'm going to walk to the road. I'm going to walk up the lane to the main road, and I'll call again. I'll call Sam. And I'm on my way to the road, and I hear something coming up the road, the gravel. I could hear something on the gravel, on the road. I can't see nothing in the fog. I have my flashlight. I'm shining it through the fog. I can't see nothing. And then there was no sound. And I went to turn around and walk back to my house down the lane, and I heard something right behind me. I turned around, I shone my flashlight. I could see I shine here. It was Sam. Oh my God, it was Sam. He was so stressed out, and he come running to me, and he kept looking behind him, and he come running and sat right between my legs. And oh my goodness, and if you guys are still questioning whether or not this was Bigfoot, Sam, he smelled so strong of Sasquatch. He immediately started throwing up. He went over to my mom's, and once he got in there, he started throwing up. I think one come, picked him up and ran with him. Was what I was hearing once the squealing started, and then the very distressed bark that was coming from Sam, and it was disappearing so quick, like they were running like the wind. These Sasquatch, right? That's the image I had in my head, was one must have just grabbed him under its arm and ran. And I think there was more than one together, and off they took off, and they disappeared. But Sammy was very, very sick for quite a while, and stressed out the next day. He was very tired and exhausted. I can't imagine the energy that would have, because I understand when the Bigfoot are near you, there is this energy there, and if you're too close to it, you can't. I don't know how to explain this other than it overwhelms you. The one patriarch here, the big male, he has been about 10 feet from me, and I had to tell him to back up. I literally said, stop, it's too much. Like I was gonna faint or go unconscious. I don't know if others are talking about that sort of thing, but these are the things that I've experienced with them, right? And around them, if they're very, very close, there is an energy with them. There's an energy to them, or that surrounds them. I don't know if they can do anything with that energy, but it is there. So I can imagine what Sammy had went through, being in like actual physical contact with him, right? A theory about this, how they can connect with us. And come to us and be near us without actually being physically near us. And I think that's why we see the orbs and the visions. I have many visions. They come and speak to me through dreams and through visions. They have with other family members, my sister and my mother. They've spoken to us in our dreams. And I think this is how they can communicate without harming us. Because we're just not made to be in there, in like standing right next to them, right? And I think this is why Sammy was very sick for quite a while, and he was very out of sorts for quite a few days after. Now, so they did not harm Sam, but what happened with the whole thing was immediately Sammy changed. I mean, how could you not, right? How could you not? Going through something like that, he immediately learned his place, and that they were something that he should not bother or harm or pretty much be involved with. He keeps his distance. It was a hard lesson learned. And see, with my border collie, there was never that issue, and I'm not sure why. Maybe because of his nature, he just never barked at them, or it was like he immediately knew that he should stay out of it. I have more stories about him and the Sasquatch, nothing like Sammy's story, but where I've been in the bush and they come and all of a sudden my border collie's gone and he's up here at the farm, like he goes home. And that's what Sam learned to do, right? They didn't hurt Sam, but they did teach him a lesson. And I think they did that too, for my sake, because I mean, they see me all the time. They know I love my animals. They know I love my dogs, my cats, my boer goats, and they know that, right? And I think they were going to teach them a lesson, and they did, and it worked. Poor Sam. And like when he come out of that fog, he was kind of all ruffled up and scruffy looking, and this smell though, right? That's why I think it was the big male that decided, okay, they had enough of him growling and barking at them and causing all this noise and stress. They were gonna stop it, and they did. And they didn't hurt him. They didn't harm him, other than I think just him being physically in contact with him was enough. And it did take him a few days to get over that. His appetite was gone. Like I said, he was vomiting. He was physically sick, and he slept. He slept all that night and all part of the next day. He ate a little bit, threw up, and he slept some more. So this is a good indication. I mean, that was a good indication. That was because I've experienced the energy off of them, and I can't imagine Sammy going through that, right? But he did. He managed to come out of it. So that tells us something too as well. It's not like fatal. It's not. And he's still with me, right? And he's happy. He's healthy. He's in good condition, and he knows his place. He understands where he fits in to the equation. We all had to understand and work it out, and we have done that. So it's been a rough go for Sam from the very beginning, but you know, because I believe all the animals here know them. They all are familiar with the Bigfoot that are here. I've got the you're gonna hear crows and birds here. I've got the Nature Channel on the TV. I thought this was a good time to share this story with you. And maybe that'll answer some of the questions if people are wondering why Sammy does what he does, or is the way he is with these Sasquatch. That's why I say he's my Bigfoot detector, because of this, I believe because of the incident. Now, when they do come close, he knows to go, right? Or he knows to stay low, or he'll go out of the bush, or he'll go away from the area and wait. And sometimes he just can't deal with it and he comes all the way home. And that's why I've always said I will never tether my dogs to me, because they need to do what they need to do, right? This video, it drives me crazy when I see people do that. They're going out squatching or going out into these areas and they have their dog on a leash, and it's you're forcing your dog into a situation. If there's a Bigfoot there, it does not want to be there. It's going to want to go, and you're forcing it into a situation, right? Not good. And then if those Sasquatch are going to be upset with the dog, you're in the way. I believe you'll get the brunt of it as well, with that dog being tethered to you. Don't take your dog, or don't tether him. Let it go. Just like with Sammy, he didn't run after them. He was protecting the farm. He was protecting the houses and the property. He thought that's what he was supposed to do against these Bigfoot, and they weren't going to have it, right? It worked out, and I'm not saying, like, I don't know if it'll always work out for people or certain situations. I don't know that, but for this situation, it worked out, and I think because I respect them and they respect me, they weren't going to harm Sam. They were going to teach him a lesson, and that's what happened. And stay tuned. My weather it's been up and down, cold and warm, and it'll be warm one day, and I'm planning to go to one of these locations to go set. I still have 2 of these gifting bowls to set up, and then the next day it's cold and freezing and snowing, and then my plans are constantly changing. The trees for me it's like my second home. It's like therapy being in the trees. I love being out in the forest, in the trees, in the woods, and we grew up in the bush. We grew up in the trees, and it's very much home. I very much feel at home there. I'll leave it there. So stay tuned. I hope everybody is doing well. Thank you again for all of your wonderful comments and condolences and stuff. If I've missed any of the comments or anything like that, I apologize. Every time I put up a video, I try to at least acknowledge your comments, right? I will do that. I promise to do that. And so if I have missed anybody, I'm sorry for that. Everybody take care. See you in the trees. Bye for now.